After the Florida territory, where did you end up at?
Florida, Japan. Prior to the territory folding, I was approached by a guy called Sami Saranaka, which turns out was the son-in-law of the great Karl Gotch. And I guess with my physical size at that time and the little amateur background that I had, he felt that I could do well in Japan. But he made it perfectly clear that the style that he wanted me to go to in Japan wasn't anything like I was accustomed to. And I saw some tapes, and it was scary because you see these guys slapping each other and kicking and suplexing on heads and everything, and the submission holds. So, being young and eager to make a name for myself, I said, sure, I'd go. So, in June of '88, I made my first trip to Japan for a company called UWF, which later went on to be headlined by Takeda, and they called it UWFi.
Right.
But I went there. That's my two friends back there, Carlos and Fernando, making a racket.
That's okay.
And so I went there with those guys and wrestled the greats like Fujiwara, Maeda, Takeda, Suzuki, Funaki.
Right.
And that was a learning experience, just going to Japan and being exposed to that culture, and always watching so many tapes from Japan and just being able to wrestle in front of the Japanese fans who are like the best fans in the world. They're just so into it, and it's just an amazing feeling to wrestle there, especially in some of the bigger arenas, the Sumo Palace in Tokyo, the Budokan Hall. It was just great. It was a dream.
How did you adjust to that style?
It was a big adjustment in the beginning because I was always used to running, the basic high spots here: tackle, drop down, leapfrog, arm drag. But there, a high spot is considered 2 slaps to the face, a kick to your jaw, punch, and a suplex. So it was very, very aggressive, and it took some getting used to. In fact, I actually would fly there, be there for 10 days, just training to get that style down, and just basically learn how to apply the holds right. Because the Japanese fans were so aware that if this was a shoot hold and this was a bullshit hold, they knew the difference.
Right.
So Maeda and Fujiwara at that time made it a point that I learned to apply the holds correctly, and just wrestle once and come home. So it was great.
So Maeda was basically helping you over there.
Yeah. All those guys, as a badass as they all were, they were very professional and took it upon themselves to lend a helping hand and help me.
At that time, did you prefer working in the States, or would you have rather stayed in Japan?
Up until that point, I was making more money in Japan, and I learned very early on that this is a business, and regardless of where you make the most money, or how many matches you win, or how many matches you work, where you make the most money is a priority.
Right.
So I was happy with going there. It was just that the trips was so long, and it felt like such a long trip to make just for one match. But that was the way they ran the company at that time. It was one match a month.
Oh wow!
So but I said a majority of the time I just spent training,
right,
and learning.
After UWFi, you came back to the States.
I came back to the States and basically was a bum for about a year, just working local shows.
Right.
Since that time I was living in Miami, it was convenient to take shows in the West Indies and the Caribbean. So I go to the Bahamas, Jamaica, St. Lucia, and from there I had a phone call from a friend of mine who now writes for the Sentinel in Florida. His name is Alex Marvez.
I know Alex.
And he had a connection with World Championship Wrestling at that time, who they were putting on a pay-per-view in St. Louis, Missouri. It was a world tag team thing that they came up with, the Pat O'Connor tournament. So they wanted a team from England, and somebody suggested Chris Adams, and then he came up with me as being the second partner. So literally he harassed me to put a tape together so he was able to send a tape to the offices in Atlanta. And back at that time, I really didn't have that much confidence in myself, because you always associated, World Championship Wrestling with Ric Flair and Harley Race and everything. So I was like, no, I can't wrestle with those guys in that group. So I literally put the tape together to stop him from harassing me. So I put the tape together, and about a week later, I got a phone call. I'm not sure now if it was from Jim Ross or Tony Schiavone, but they basically expressed interest in having me come up for the tournament, and said, Norman, this is a big chance for you, and anything could happen. So I went there. It was December of '90, And turns out that I wrestled a team from Mexico, which would turn out to be Conan and Rey Mysterio's uncle. We just called him Rey Mysterio. And the match went well. It went well. And what's ironic is sometimes, the saying goes, it doesn't, nice guys finish last. Well, Conan came up with all these crazy Mexican spots that he wanted to do with Chris Adams. Chris looks at him and says, I'm not doing that. The crazy flips and flops and everything. So he came up to me and said, Norman, would you mind doing this and that? I said, it didn't make sense to me, but I figured, well, why the hell I'll do it. So we did it, and Conan was happy with the match and the way it turned out, which he should have been because I put him over. And after that, Conan was also a student of the sport at that time, and he was aware that I was wrestling in Japan.
Right.
So he asked me if I would be interested in going to Mexico to wrestle there. And I was somewhat reluctant because I always had the connotation that, there's no money in Mexico, I'm going to go there and waste my time. So when he told me what I could make there and he guaranteed it, I said, sure, let's go. And basically went there. Originally, I went there for a tour of 4 weeks. Ended up staying for 4 years before I came home.
So before you went to Mexico, did anybody in WCW express interest in you at all? Or?
No.
It was just a one-match show?
Just a one-match show. I gave it my best shot. And, but back then, as I explained before, I have a tendency to lay back.
Right.
And have things come to me, which I guess is not the right way to be successful in a big business. I made a couple of phone calls, but I could just tell that they weren't interested, so I didn't pursue it.
No, when you went to Mexico, what was the company that you worked for down there, EMLO?
EMLO. Empresa Mexicana de Lucha Libre. That's my Spanish, it's good. I went there in 91, and that was just, it was a great experience because I went there at the peak of wrestling at that time. The style was completely different to American wrestling or the submission stuff that I was doing. And it was just a different experience wrestling all those different guys who all wore masks. In fact, my first match there, I'm in the locker room and we're going over the match with the guys, and obviously they all have the mask off. Right. Then you get in the ring, it's like, well, who are you my partner? I'm wrestling you. So it was just wild. And as I said, business was booming. It wasn't strange for me to wrestle 10, 12 times a week at that time. And it was a great stage of my life because I went there and just experienced new things, met great people, Vampiro, Chris Jericho came through, a bunch of guys came through, Val Venus, met all the Guerreros there, Hector, Mondo, Chavo, and it was just a great time.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.